Greetings. We're going to go through here a presentation that we used in our Sugar House meetings for folks who are prospective sap collectors and want to work on this project with us. This is for folks who have been to the meetings and want to review what was said there, or for folks who weren't able to make the meetings and would like to be considered for inclusion in this project as well. So the first thing I'm going to have to do here is share the screen that has the PowerPoint presentation on it, and that should work right now. We're looking at it here. All right, assuming we're recording and assuming we're sharing, I think we're pretty much ready to go. Slideshow. Okay. Well, my name is Mike Rechlin, and I'm with Future Generations and the Sweet Opportunities Project. Prior to this, I had been with the Department of Agriculture in West Virginia as their maple commodity specialist. And prior to that, I'd been involved with the maple industry here in West Virginia for the last 5 years and many other places before that. So with that as an introduction, I live in Franklin, Pendleton County. We'll continue on and talk about what we talked about in those Sugar House meetings. Okay. And the fundamental question here is why make maple syrup? I thought that stuff was MAID in Vermont, as Vermont Made would like us to believe. Okay? And certainly Vermont is a major producer of maple syrup. But West Virginia could also play a major role in this game as we move forward. And that's what we're trying to promote here. Okay. Well, West Virginia, the state tree, is the sugar maple tree. So we have some claim to this product. And there are plenty of sugar maple trees in West Virginia. We have no loss for the basic resource that we need to get in the maple syrup making game. Okay. But even if you don't have sugar maples, you can make maple syrup with any type of maple tree, any of the Acer, A-C-E-R genus of trees. A lot of you may have red maple out there. A lot of folks in West Virginia make syrup with red maple. Silver maple, black maple and sugar maple are very similar. Box elder or even Norway maple, if you've got some planted street trees. They'll all give sap and they can all be used to make maple syrup. But certainly sugar maple and red maple are our major maple resource in the state. And we have quite a resource in the state. This is a graph put together by a friend of mine, Mike Farrell, okay? And it shows the potential number of taps per state. You can say West Virginia on the far right side there in yellow, and then you look over and you see that two over, you go Wisconsin over, we actually have more potential taps than Vermont, okay? Many more than Virginia or Tennessee in our region here. Certainly there are other places that have, but more. New Hampshire is a major maple syrup producer right next to big old New York there, and we have more potential taps than New Hampshire. So we have the resource here in West Virginia. However, we're not doing a lot with that. It's an untapped resource, as I like to say. Quebec, Canada, is the major producer of maple syrup in the world, and they make almost 14 million gallons a year. Vermont, the major producer in our country, only makes 2 million gallons a year. New York, Maine, West Virginia, 9,000 gallons a year. That's not a lot. We have a high potential, a lot of trees, and we've got the resource. We just need to develop that resource and get it on tap. Okay. West Virginia, however, has a history of making maple syrup. Although we think of New England as the syrup-producing capital of this country, and it certainly is. If you look around, it won't take you far, or you don't have to drive long before you come up with a village name of Sugar Camp or Sugar Creek Junction, Sugar Run, Sugar Grove, Sugar Valley, go on. And then roads likewise throughout the state that have maple syrup or maple sugar, name places associated with them. It's part of our history. Okay. If you look at many a West Virginia homestead and you look out back, you'll see something like this, an old wooden shed or a barn. Inside there, you could find buckets, okay? And if you look in those buckets, by golly, look at that. Those are spiles or taps, as we call them. And people way back when the people of West Virginia were more into subsistence agriculture, they would take and whittle those spiles out of elderberry or sumac branches in the winter, and then have them ready to put in their trees and make their own sugar mostly. And historically, we made sugar because it was all the homesteads needed sugar. They didn't particularly need syrup, but all their sweetening could be done with maple sugar that they made right on their own property. Okay. West Virginia, when we started trying to promote resurgence of the industry, we formed a syrup producers association. It's very active. When I joined, there were 12 members. Now there's 55. Ohio has 800, by the way, so we've still got a long way to go. But it helps to promote the industry within the state, provide educational opportunities for people who want to get into the syrup making or sugar making business. And we've got quite a few, as I said, that have done this. This is an interactive map on the West Virginia Maple Syrup Producers Association webpage, www.wvmspa.org. We're an org. And if you look at that on the website, you can see all the producers in West Virginia. All right. And then if you click on them, there's some information about each of those sugar camps. We call them sugar camps down here. Well, each of our existing producers, people who've made the investment to become a maple syrup producer, in this project, we look at them as a production hub. They put money into this, okay? They bought a bunch of equipment, and they're in the maple syrup production business. But many other people could also join this industry in the sap collection business, whether you're collecting on buckets or on tubes and running down to a central area. There's room for expansion of collecting sap and then having an agreement by which you sold it to an existing production hub. So what we're saying here is you don't need a lot of money to initially get into the syrup production business, and we'll help you hook up with a production hub, a producer that's interested in buying sap from you. And we'll talk about the economics of that very shortly. A production hub, a syrup producer, particularly one that has a reverse osmosis unit, is well equipped to work with we call satellite sap collectors, to expand the industry, expand the benefits of maple syrup production beyond that production hub's actual sugar bush boundary. A reverse osmosis machine basically takes a lot of the water out of the sap before you boil it. And it can go, if the average sugar content of sap is 2%, it can go up to 16% sugar in the concentrate before you start boiling it. Okay. What does that mean? It means that if you've got 2% maple syrup or maple sap, and you've collected 500 gallons of that sap, and say you're evaporating, if you got a small evaporator, you can evaporate at the rate of 25 gallons an hour. It means that as you stand, if you just take the sap right out of the tree and start evaporating it, it's going to take you 20 hours to evaporate that 500 gallons of sap you collected. That doesn't give you a whole lot of time to sleep. But if you take and you run it through a reverse osmosis unit and you bring it up to 4%, 2 to 4%, you've taken out half the water. So now you've only got 250 gallons of sap concentrate to boil. It's only going to take you 10 hours. Or if you take it up to 8%, you've taken out another half. Now you've only got 125 gallons to boil, 25 gallons an hour. You can get that done in 5 hours. If you take it all the way up to 16, you can get that initial 20 hours of evaporating completed and syrup made in a mere 2.5 hours. Most of our producers in West Virginia are running somewhere between 8 and 12% as it comes out of their RO units. Or, looking at it another way, if you now have the capacity to boil 500 gallons of sap, take it up all the way to 16, in 2.5 hours, That means if you had the sap, you could boil 1,000 gallons in 5 hours or 2,000 gallons in that 10 hours. Let's leave it at that point because we all like sleeping. So if a producer had an RO, and if they had enough sap, they could double and double again the amount of sap they can boil, the amount of syrup that they can produce with a RO unit. And most of the production hub folks we're working with are equipped with these units. Okay, which brings us to you. Okay. We invited you to this meeting because it's our hope that you'll be interested in getting into the maple game and being a sap collector and selling to one of our production hubs. This can be an entree into your own sugar bush that in future years you establish, or it can be an economic relationship that you work out with a existing producer and continue on into the future, hopefully expanding as you see where this can lead you. And where does it lead us to? It leads us to Kate on this particular project. Kate's our natural resource person in the team that you would meet if you had been to the meeting. And Kate's a forester, and if you're interested in working with us on this, then the first thing we're going to do is send Kate out to visit your land with you and do an evaluation of your woodlot. See if you've got the trees that'll make this all possible. Okay. So gets us back to why make maple syrup. And the answer to that is because we can sell it. We have a good market for maple syrup in this state. I don't know any of our producers that are not able to sell their product locally, many times in farmers markets and fairs. All right. If you're going to farmers market, it's another product out there. So it's a way of earning income off of your land, all right, through the production, collection of sap, and eventual sale of maple syrup. Okay, as a sap collector, say you want to do this. Let's start small. If you tap 50 trees on your land, you could expect a 50-50 split on the syrup that was made with your collaborating production hub. So 50 trees will give you 12 gallons of syrup. We figure a quart per tree, so it's going to give you 12 gallons of syrup. 50-50 split, you come home with 6 gallons of syrup at the end of the day, and the production hub you're working with, the producer you're working with, comes home with 6 gallons of syrup at the end of the day. That's more syrup for him to market and sell, okay, than he had before he started working with you. With 50 trees, 6 gallons gives you enough to slather on all the pancakes you can imagine, unless you eat them breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next year, which I wouldn't recommend. It gives you syrup to give away as Christmas presents because you made it. It came off of your property, okay? But probably not much to go out and actually market and sell in the market. So let's say you've tapped 100 trees. We're still going with a 50-50 split. Your share now would be 12 gallons. At $20 a quart, which is the going rate, you could go with 12. That's more than syrup than you can possibly use or give away for most people. So with 12 gallons, that's enough to take down to your local farmer's market, take to a fair, take it to some event. And if you sold it for $20 a quart, that would give you $960 out of your 100 trees. That's starting to look pretty good, okay? Or you could tap 500 trees, a 50-50 split as far as the syrup came. Now you can do the math on the 100 to 500, but at this point, more likely than not, you're going to want to enter into an arrangement by which the producer paid you for your sap coming in, and that's an economic relationship that would have to be worked out between collector and producer for what everybody felt was fair. Okay, we have some guidelines, but that's an individual arrangement. Okay, and let the producer, he would bear the result, the burden of actually selling it, but he's already developing markets and just adding your sap or the syrup produced your split into his marketing system, saving you the burden of having to actually do the marketing. You're going to get a little bit less from that because the producer has that shares burden of marketing. But you're still going to come out with a pretty good income off of your investment in the maple game here, and we'll talk about that in another video. Okay. So in addition to selling syrup and the economic benefits of small farms and small landowners, forest landowners want to get some income, pay the taxes, whatnot, off of buy, pickup truck or whatever off of their land. We're also want to make maple syrup because it's a sustainable use of our state's natural resources. You can it takes 90 to 140, 50 years to grow a good maple tree, and you can cut it down once in that period, take it to the sawmill, and get one economic benefit from it. Or you can sustainably manage your forest resource, thinning things out as need be, harvesting some trees as need be, continuing to tap, and as you do this, you will increase the sweetness and the amount of sap you get through proper management, providing habitat for wildlife all the while, as opposed to that one-time 120 year harvest operation. So one reason we want to make maple syrup is for the economic benefits. Another is for the resource sustainability. We keep the forest on the land. We keep things looking good for multiple uses out there. And the third and final reason I like to say we make maple syrup is because it's fun. All right. This gets you out in the spring when you might not normally get out, gets you collecting sap in buckets or managing your tubing system and delivering sap to your producer. It's fun to see this new product come off of your land. It's fun to have your label on your share, or it's fun to put your check in the bank, depending on the relationship you work out with your producer. So economic benefits, environmental benefits, and just plain working with your producer, you end up into a relationship that's you'll be down there watching them make the syrup and watching all this, and it's an enjoyable way to spend some time. It's also fun because unlike most jobs you may enter into, this only lasts 6 weeks. So the whole sugaring season lasts 6 weeks. So, you can do most anything for 6 weeks. If you have to do it for the whole year, it may become burdensome, but on a short period of time, a lot of activity out there, it is a fun activity. So we'd like to encourage you all to consider this. We will work with you to find a collaborating SAP purchaser in the form of a production hub. And we hope to send Kate out to evaluate your woodlot and assist you through the Sweet Opportunities program to establish a sap collection system and be part of the great and growing maple industry in West Virginia. With that, we'll leave off and look forward to furthering this adventure. Bye-bye.